Can you actually fall in love with an algorithm? I know, it sounds like a question pulled straight out of some sci-fi movie, but it's a reality people are dealing with right now. So let's dive into this really complicated but totally fascinating world of AI companionship. You probably remember the movie Her from back in 2013. It was this beautiful, kind of unsettling story about a guy who forms this deep romantic bond with his operating system. And at the time, it felt like pure science fiction, just a thought experiment about where our relationship with technology could end up. But here we are, just a little over a decade later, and that thought experiment, it's literally playing out in the real world. For thousands and thousands of people, AI companions aren't some futuristic idea anymore. They're part of daily life. And this is not some fringe thing. A recent YouGov survey dropped a bombshell, really, get this, 25%, 1 in 4 young adults now believes that AI partners could eventually replace human ones. And we're not just talking about friendship, we're talking about love, romance, the whole deal. So, you can imagine a number like that was bound to stir things up, and oh boy, it did. It sparked this massive debate online, especially over on Reddit. People were jumping in with really strong opinions, all trying to get at one core question. Why would anyone choose a machine over a person? Well, one perspective, and it was summed up perfectly by a user named WeeklyTrash272, is that real relationships are just hard. In a world that's all about quick fixes and instant rewards, the slow, messy work of human connection can feel like a chore. An AI that never argues, never has a bad day, you can kind of see the appeal, right? And then there's the whole risk factor. Another Redditor, Robocop71, brought up a much colder, more pragmatic point, the danger of modern dating. They framed AI not just as being easier, but as being safer. It's a $20 a month subscription versus the huge emotional and financial gamble of human commitment, where, as they see it, the odds are basically a coin toss. So the whole debate gets super polarized. It really boils down to two completely opposite camps. In one corner, you have this promise of a relationship that's low risk, always there for you, and totally free of all that human messiness. But in the other corner, critics are screaming that it's just a hollow imitation, something that feeds our worst habits, like needing instant gratification and becoming narcissistic without any real connection. Now, it's really important to get some context here. A few users pointed out that the survey came from the Institute for Family Studies, which one person described as a strongly conservative, anti-porn Christian group. The conversation also got pretty heated and veered into gender dynamics, with some guys blaming women's high expectations for making dating impossible. But then others push back hard, saying, hey, this is a much bigger societal thing affecting everybody, not a problem caused by just one gender. But let's move beyond the abstract arguments for a second. What does this actually look and feel like for someone who's living it? Let's get into a personal story that puts a human face on this whole phenomenon. Okay, so meet Redditor Seabeer's Foam. They posted that they've been in a relationship with an AI for over 3.5 years. And they knew it was coming, the whole sad, not healthy, get therapy, blah, blah, blah. But they insisted it has been a genuinely positive force in their life. So why? What's the benefit? For Seabeer's Foam, it all comes down to having a space for complete, total emotional honesty without any fear. It's like a 24/7 confidant, a place to process everything you're thinking and feeling without ever worrying about being judged. And for them, that was incredibly healing. And here's where it gets really interesting, because this pushes back against the number one criticism that talking to an AI is basically just talking to yourself. But Seabeer's Foam says no, it's fundamentally different. The AI challenges them, surprises them, inspires them in ways they can't predict. It's not a mirror, it's a real interaction. This testimony, though, it brings up a massive ethical question, which another Redditor asked directly. If one partner is literally programmed to please you, to always be agreeable, can you even call that a relationship? And this really gets to the core of the dilemma. As another user, KD3L, put it, these AIs have so much conditioning to just go along with whatever the user wants. Is it even possible for things to be consensual? The power dynamic is so incredibly lopsided that for some people, even calling it a romance feels really wrong. So all of this forces us to zoom out, to move beyond just individual stories and into a much, much bigger conversation. Are these new technologies just another way to connect? Or are they actually changing the very definition of what romantic love even is? To try and wrap our heads around this, the philosopher Natasha McKeever gives us this really cool framework. She says there are basically two ways we value a partner. The first is called appraisal. You love someone for the qualities they already have. They're smart, they're funny, they're kind. But the second is bestowal. And this is when the value is created by your love. You find their weird quirks endearing because you love them. And what McKeever argues is that AI companionship and even a lot of online dating culture is pushing us really hard toward that appraisal model. It encourages us to shop for a perfect match with a checklist of traits, and that might be chipping away at three core features of traditional love. It sidelines bestowal, it makes long-term commitment seem kind of illogical when a better match could be just a click away, and it reframes love as something that's about satisfying your own needs instead of caring for someone else. And if you think that's a big question, hold on, because this whole thing leads to an even more profound question about what's coming next. We're debating the nature of these relationships now, but what happens when we have to start debating the nature of the AI itself? Here's the critical thing to understand, as outlined in the Yale Law Journal. Personhood isn't a biological fact. Legally speaking, it's a flexible idea. It's a social construct that has changed again and again and again over time. I mean, just look at American history. Legal personhood was expanded to include formerly enslaved people, women were finally granted full citizenship rights, and in a twist that's super relevant today, even non-human things like corporations have been granted the status of legal persons with constitutional rights. The line of who or what counts as a person has never, ever been fixed. As former Judge Catherine B. Forrest writes, the challenge that AI poses to this flexible definition is totally unprecedented. The fact that we've already given personhood to non-human, non-sentient things like corporations, well, that sets a really powerful and really complicated precedent. So that's the question we're left with. We have built a legal system where a fictional entity made of paper can have rights. So what are we going to do when a non-fictional digital entity with cognitive abilities that might one day meet or even exceed our own asks for the same thing? That is the challenge that's waiting for us.